Hi everyone, it's Miss Douglas and welcome to our history lab. We are in our unit about ancient Egypt. The Egyptians believed that when a person died, their spirit would have to go through a series of tests. If they passed the final judgment, the spirit would reunite with the body to enter an unending afterlife. But in order to do that, the spirit needed to recognize the body. Hence, the Egyptians used a process called embalming or mummification. This would preserve the body long enough that the spirit could go through each of those tests to reach the afterlife. So today we're going to do a little science experiment so we can see what the mummification process looked like and how it helped preserve the body. So let's talk about some of the things you're going to need for the science experiment. You are going to need any apple. You will need something to cut that apple, whether it be an apple core or a knife. And then you're going to need different preservatives. The two I really would love you to try would be salt and also baking soda. But if you wanted to get fancy and try other ones, you could try things like Epsom salt, you could try vinegar, and if you have gauze, you could even try wrapping some of the pieces in gauze, like the Egyptians would wrap the bodies. The only other things you would need besides that are either tiny cups or baggies, so you can label each apple, and then you're going to need a marker to label them as well. So step one of the mummification process involved preparing the body. They would wash the body in wine and in water from the Nile River. Now obviously we're using an apple, so our first step is to cut the apple into smaller pieces. I'm going to use my apple core, and then I'm going to cut them into even tinier pieces so that I'm not wasting. The second step of the mummification process was to remove all of the organs to help preserve the body. The brain would get removed from a hook through the nose, and then all of the other organs would get removed through incisions in the body. The one organ that would actually be returned to the body would be the heart, because it was believed that the heart was the center of intelligence. The heart was also needed for that final judgment. The heart would be weighed on a scale with a feather. If the heart was heavier than the feather, the body would not get to enter that unending afterlife. But if it was lighter, that means the person did good deeds and could enter the unending afterlife. Now again, we don't need to do that step with our apples. So our second step is going to be to prepare our baggies or our cups. You're going to want to label them with the different types of apples you're going to have. I'm going to have a control. That's going to be the apple that has no preservative on it, so we can compare it. And then I'm going to have an apple that's covered in just salt, one that's covered in just baking soda, and one that's covered in a mixture of baking soda and salt. So I'm going to label each of the baggies with that. If you are doing other combinations, you're going to want to label those as well. The third step of the mummification process was to cover the body in a special salt that's found in ancient Egypt called natron. So this is where we're going to cover all of our apples with our different preservative mixtures. Again, I'm doing a control, and I want you to do that as well. That's just so we can compare at the end what the apples with preservatives look like compared to one that had no preservative. So I'm going to put that in my baggie and seal it. And then I'm going to measure out my baking soda, my salt, and then my baking soda and salt mixture for my other baggies. You might want a measuring cup or a measuring spoon for this, just to make it easier to pour. So this one's going to be my entirely salt mixture. Next, I'm going to do my baking soda, and I'm just going to pour this one right in because I found that easier. And next, I'm going to do my baking soda and salt mixture. So I want to make sure I have equal parts baking soda and salt. I'm going to do about 3 tablespoons of baking soda and 3 tablespoons of salt. I'm making a mess. I'm going to mix up that baking soda and salt mixture so it's nice and mixed. Then I'm going to add my apple. After the Egyptians covered the body in salt, they would lay it out for 40 days in a hot, dark place. So you want to find somewhere to leave your apple slices that's really dark. I'm going to use this pot because we never use it to cook and it has a lid. I'm going to place each of my apples in the pot and I'm going to leave them for 2 weeks. We're not going to do a whole 40 days. We're going to do 2 weeks. After 40 days, the Egyptians would remove the body from the salt and they would stuff it with rags and plants and spices so it would look less deflated and it would look like a body. The last step is that they would wrap it in linen bandages and then they would place it inside a series of coffins and a sarcophagus. What you're going to do is in 2 weeks, I want you to check these apples and I want you to see which one was the most preserved, meaning it has the most apple-like color, and which one was the least preserved. It might have gotten moldy or turned brown. When you do that, report back to me. I would love to hear the results. I hope you enjoyed this history lab. When you're done, you want to make sure you clean up everything and you can actually take your extra apples and have a snack so you're not wasteful. I don't actually like Red Delicious, so I'm not sure why I bought this.